his senior staff. Monday afternoon, he announced on Twitter he has fired Mark Esper, the Secretary of Defense.
President-elect Biden is expected to announce various executive orders that he plans to sign into law on his first day of presidency. And he's been doing this throughout this week, by the way. He plans to rescind the Trump administration's ban on immigration from certain countries. Biden also wants to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization.
And one of those executive orders includes Biden's COVID-19 response team. That team is made up of public health experts and scientists who will help him and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris respond to the pandemic. The team is made up of 13 doctors and scientists, including former leaders of the FDA and a former U.S. Surgeon General. In a speech earlier today, Biden talked about coming together as a country to end this virus once and for all.
I will be a president for every American. This election is over. It's time to put aside the partisanship and the rhetoric that designed to demonize one another. It's time to end the politicization of basic responsible public health steps like mask wearing and social distancing.
Now, over the weekend, news broke that Joe Biden was declared the projected winner of the 2020 election, and a lot of weight is placed on the first 100 days in office. So I wanted to know from you at home, what issues would you like to see President-elect Biden address during his presidency? Let's get into some of your comments. Ken Wood says, I've heard some economic strategists suggest that we may be headed for another recession. I'd like to know what his plan is to tackle it. Wanda Creedle says higher pay raise for the disabled and veterans, higher teacher wages and nurses, just all around help us in our pockets to have more money coming in to stay in homes and put on lights, gas, and for food. Pedro says just simply to fix all the big mess. And Benny says time to get COVID-19 under control. And with America, Eric and Maddie hitting that 10 million mark since the pandemic started in terms of cases, I know that Benny is not alone in looking towards the new president-elect here, Joe Biden, to see what we can do about this pandemic in the country.
Yeah, I would think that that's probably first and foremost for a lot of folks. In my head, I think that's, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think that's number one, because if you get that under control, some other things economically kind of fall into place.
And I think that he's already placing an emphasis on that. We're seeing a press conference the first business day after he was declared the projected winner of this race, and he's immediately talking about COVID-19 and his plan to respond to the pandemic. I think, Taheshah, just like some of the commenters said, the economy has to be another big issue. Again, because of the pandemic, we have taken an economic hit. We've seen unemployment rates fall as well. So I think that he's definitely already laying out what he's going to do in his first 100 days of office. All right, let's turn now to more about this election. You know, for the past week now, we've all been staring at maps that look like this one. States colored in red or blue with a tally of electoral votes over here. But two wants to know, why do we use the Electoral College? So I asked Wake Forest politics professor John Dinan, and he says when the framers were working out our Constitution and deciding how we would elect a president, they had a couple of options. First, they could have Congress elect the president, but they didn't think that the president would be independent of the legislator. Another option was to have the people select their leader, but at the time they thought the country was too large and the people not informed enough to make that choice.
So they did not think it was possible for the people to actually make a wise decision about the various candidates back in 1787. They came up with the idea of an intermediate body, the electors. The people would select the electors would then make the selection of the president.
So obviously a lot has changed about our country since the Electoral College was started, but Professor Dinan says hardly anything has changed about the way we elect our president. So why do we still use the Electoral College? In short, because it's really hard to change the Constitution, and people have tried.
No part of the U.S. Constitution that has been subject to more amendment efforts than the Electoral College. That is, if we look at how many times people propose change to the U.S. Constitution, the number one change people propose is let's change the Electoral College.
Okay, but in more than 230 years, only 27 amendments to the Constitution have passed, and 10 of those were the Bill of Rights. So as it stands, on December 14th, North Carolina's 15 electors will cast their ballots for the winner of the popular vote in our state, which is yet to be determined officially. It is looking like it will go in favor of President Donald Trump for North Carolina. But Professor Dinan also says you have to think about what is called faithless electors, and that's when these electors go on to the Capitol on December 14th and they select someone who is not the winner in our state. Now, in 2016, 7 electors across the country were deemed faithless electors, but we'll have to wait until that day in December to see what's going to happen in 2020.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up the faithless electors because they are bound by what they signed up for, and they're given a fine. But if you actually look at some of the terms of that, the fine isn't large. So it's kind of like we are putting our hope in these electors to do as the people ask. But I am curious to see what will happen when all those electors head to Washington and place their votes.
You know, and it took me a while to really grasp. I mean, every time I talk about the Electoral College with someone who knows what they're talking about, I learn something new. But, you know, in the beginning, it really was. And even now, what would happen, I talked to a college professor, too, if we didn't have that, small states who don't have a lot of population would basically be voiceless. And then all the candidates would end up going to just the large metro areas, even though the Triad would probably be one of those. But still, smaller states that don't have a big representation, they would lose out if we didn't have it.
And what I thought was interesting as well when I was talking to Professor Dinan, he says that the Electoral College really backs up the two-party system that we have here in America. And if that went away, we could become a 3, 4, even 5-party political country.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening in our lifetime, the Electoral College going away. But hey, anything can happen. It is 2020 after all. So. All right, let's get into your 4 to 5 roundup right now. The coronavirus has hit another sobering milestone. More than 50 million cases worldwide since the pandemic began. And as I mentioned earlier, the U.S. has hit that 10 million mark here. There have been more than 1.2 million deaths from the disease worldwide since the pandemic started. Now, the U.S., with about 4% of the world's population, represents almost a fifth of all reported cases. The country has seen more than 237,000 deaths from the virus since the pandemic started. Buyer beware of bogus sites selling Lysol wipes. The Federal Trade Commission says at least 25 websites have been selling the products without delivering them to buyers. The sites are designed to look like legitimate sellers of Clorox and Lysol disinfecting wipes and lure in consumers by using internet search engines and pop-up ads. Back in August, Clorox's CEO said grocery stores won't be fully stocked with wipes until next year. Hey, if you own a General Motors vehicle, listen up. The company is recalling more than 217,000 cars and SUVs in the U.S. and Canada because transmission oil can leak, causing them to stop moving or even possibly catch fire. The recall affects 2018 through 2020 Chevrolet Equinox and Traverse, as well as the GMC Terrain. There are more vehicles included that you can find on our website. But GM says that 2 bolts may be missing from the stop-start mechanism, allowing the fluid to leak. The company says it has no reports of crashes, fires, or injuries.
Well, weather-wise across the Triad, take your pick. We have mild temperatures in the 70s, and really the entire nation is kind of split. We have mild temperatures in the east and really cold wintertime temperatures back to our west. And as you've noticed, we have started with the sunshine today, but those clouds really have started to thicken up as we've gone throughout the afternoon. We're dry in the Triad. There are a few showers down to our east. That's pretty much where they'll stay for the rest of the evening. And really the entire region is pretty quiet right now, but that will change as we head towards the middle of the week. Of course, all eyes are on Tropical Storm Ada. It's down here just off the coast of Florida, about 140 miles from the dry Tortugas Islands, and it's likely to just kind of meander here near Florida for the next several days, really over the majority of the week. And that's why there's such this big cone of uncertainty. We don't really exactly know where it's going to go. Eventually, though, we are going to get some moisture from it. And as far as rain totals go, heading into the middle of the week, by the time we get to Friday night, we could pick up anywhere from 1 to 3 inches across the Triad. Of course, we'll fine-tune those details, and we'll dive into all those coming up. Mostly cloudy skies overnight. A stray shower can't be totally ruled out, but we will stay in the 50s. And for your Tuesday, it's a mainly dry day, but the clouds thicken up. Chance for rain goes up late tomorrow night, and then we'll talk about a soggy second half of the week. We'll dive into those details and your 7-day forecast coming up on your 4 to 5.
You know, it is one of the longest light display traditions in the Triad, and they are at it again. I bet you know what I'm talking about. I spoke with the folks over at Tanglewood to see what the Festival of Lights will hold for us this year. Brandy, this is cool. One of my favorite events, always has been for many years. In fact, let's talk about the history. I mean, this thing goes back decades.
Yeah, so the first Festival of Lights began in 1992, so we're in our 29th season. There was just a handful of displays, just short of a mile, and now we've grown to over 100 displays in about 5 miles.
You know, it's funny, and everybody talks about everybody's got to change to be COVID safe and that type of thing, but I don't think you guys have to change very much, do you?
Not really. We're well suited for COVID-19. The only difference this year is that it's just strictly going to be a drive-through route. The gift village will be closed, so we won't have the gift shop, we won't have Santa, unfortunately, and S'moresville will not be happening this year. So just a straight drive-through event.
So obviously, I mean, the lights are the big draw for this. Whether you have some of those other things or not, people come for those displays. And I mean, I can't imagine, you're probably not going to see any difference in numbers, I don't think. What are you guys expecting this year?
We're expecting a huge turnout for 2020, just because it is well suited for COVID-19. Everyone wants to get into the holiday spirit, so we anticipate a lot of traffic this year. So I would suggest coming during the week. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays are extremely busy, so come early and come early in the season.
It's perfect. Brandy, thank you so much. We can't wait to get out there. You know, we hear about them all the time. I mean, they're popping up all over the place, but I never get tired of this. And I could see if there's probably 10 within a short drive of where I live, and I would go see them all.
Yeah, they were doing the drive-in before the drive-in was cool, right? I love her advice saying come early and come during the week, but you know people aren't going to do that. They're going to go on Saturday and Sunday in the evening when it's dark. And you know what? You'll just have to wait in line with a smile on your face, knowing that you're going to see the lights.
Somebody like me who is off a couple days during the week can maybe take advantage of that, shorter lines. But I really like seeing this and the fact that it started so early. You know, we're all ready to just kind of be filled with some kind of Christmas spirit and joy, and this kind of gets us in that mood.
Absolutely. I have memories of going to Tanglewood as a kid to see the lights and having hot chocolate, and that's wonderful. And yeah, it's perfect because it was always a drive-through, so they didn't have to change anything. Taheshah, I think you hit the nail right on the head with that one. Hey, share with us your favorite place to see lights in the Piedmont Triad area. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and you can always use our hashtag 4 to 5. We'll see you there.
Can you hear me? Mic check. What's up, Matt? How you doing, bud? Haven't seen you in a while. Living the dream. I was about to say, what a time to be alive. Go G-Man, right? My boys won too. It wasn't pretty, but we'll take it. Phillip Rivers looked like he blew out an ACL trying to make a tackle. All right, so we're just gonna go. We're gonna Tua time. My boy George is in the house. What's up, George? I was watching TV today. They was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be a resurgence in Dolphins fans." I was like, "You're the only person I know that likes the Dolphins, George." But you know, that's if you're my age, you don't like the Dolphins. Nobody does. Remember, we weren't there. Not even. Yeah, we're going to the Alex Trebek. We're going to start with Jenny, and then we're going to go to Farrah, Susan, and then Linda. That's what you got, Alex Trebek? Let's do it, baby.
The world lost a legend yesterday. Longtime Jeopardy host Alex TREBEK died after a battle with pancreatic cancer. TREBEK hosted the popular game show for more than 35 years, and our social media reporter Jalen Gilkey is joining us today. And Jalen, his presence was huge, even right here in the Triad.
Yeah, Maddie, absolutely. Everyone across the nation and across the world loves the show Jeopardy. And, you know, what would the show be without Mr. TREBEK and his presence and his wittiness and, you know, just all the things that he brought as a host? We got a lot of condolences and comments that we like to share from Facebook. Our first one comes from Jenny. Jenny says, Jeopardy will not be the same without him. R.I.P. Next, we have a comment from Farah. Farah says, what a huge loss. May your beautiful soul rest in eternal peace. Next, we have a comment from Susan. Susan says, it's so sad, praying for the family. And lastly, we have a comment from Linda who says, prayers for the family. He will be truly missed. And just a great soul, a great person. Jeopardy is actually my dad's favorite show. He's been watching it for, I would say, probably 35 years. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm way better than he is at getting the answers right. So.
I mean, Alex TREBEK introduced trivia to generations. He had such a rapport. He was a class act. You know, it really hit the world hard yesterday, all over social media. And then we aired Jeopardy reruns before the 4 to 5. So as I was walking into the studio today, I saw him on the screen, and it just breaks your heart. But goodness, what a legacy he left behind.
I mean, he was unbelievable in his classiness. You know, I think there are certain people that can host certain types of show, and he was perfect for that one. You know, I was talking with someone just the other day about they pre-tape a bunch of shows when they do syndication like that, and he has pre-taped or had pre-taped enough that the last show, ironically, is on Christmas Day. Of Alex TREBEK's show. So we will all be very sad. He was a piece of TV history we lost.
Yeah, and courageous to be so public about his battle with pancreatic cancer. Certainly will be missed.
All right, let's talk Triad weather. We're dry right now, but that will change as we get into the second half of the week. Taking a look at the radar across North Carolina right now, there are some showers really to our east and just a couple light sprinkles in the Triad right now. That's about all we'll see tonight and really for the most part tomorrow. We did have that beautiful sunshine, but as we've gone throughout the afternoon, this has really been the scene with those clouds thickening up, and that will continue as we head into your Tuesday. But temperature-wise, things are pretty comfortable. We're in the 70s across the board right now, 72 in Greensboro, 73 in Winston-Salem, 72 in Lexington, and 70 in Asheboro as well. We've had high pressure in control of our weather the last several days, but it will start to break down and shift offshore. As it does, a lot of that moisture really indirectly from Tropical Storm Ada off the coast of Florida will be able to move into our neck of the woods. Meanwhile, an approaching cold front will work together with that moisture to give us a better chance for some showers late tomorrow night. And then I think really a pretty good soaking washout day for Wednesday and Thursday. Tropical Storm Ada, by the way, it's going to sit here and meander just off the coast of Florida for the next several days because it's not really going to move anywhere. So this is what we're watching, bottom line. The clouds thicken up tomorrow. Late tomorrow night, we could have some showers. Wednesday and Thursday are looking like a washout at this point with 1 to 3 inches of rain, maybe even more in some locations possible. But then after that, we dry it out and we cool it down heading into the weekend. We'll take a look at that full 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Your 4 to 5 will be right back.
Okay, let's see. What am I talking about today? Oh, Thanksgiving plans and how to break the news when somebody's probably going to disagree. I think you're right.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. Of course, the holidays can be stressful for many people, from dreading any family drama to deciding who to visit. And now you add in the coronavirus pandemic, you have additional stress that you did not have last year. And that's why Blanca Cobb is here back on the 4 to 5 to chat about that today. Ways to talk to your family about your Thanksgiving plans. So Blanca, will jump right in. What makes these decisions so stressful?
Because everybody has a different idea of what is right. So if you make a different decision than somebody else, then somebody's considered wrong. So let me give you an example. Let's say you decide you don't want to visit family because you want to be on the safe side, but somebody else could be like, I don't think that's big of a deal. I'm going to go visit family. So that unspoken message is someone's inconsiderate, either you for not going or them for going.
Ooh, unspoken messages. I like that term. So once that decision is made, how do you avoid running into those unspoken messages?
That's a tricky situation, Maddie. But look at it this way. You don't fall for the bait. You stick to the facts only. So if your mom or your dad is saying, well, your sister's going to be coming and they don't seem to mind the pandemic, don't fall for it. Stick to the facts, and the facts are your decision. Okay, my sister decided to go, but I'm not comfortable traveling, so we're not. And what if we get there and we expose you to something? I wouldn't want to feel guilty about it, so I'm not going to go. However, this is where you want to come with a solution. Hey, we can have a video conference or a FaceTime as we're having Thanksgiving dinner or dessert or whatever. Come up with a solution. So if you come up with a solution with your bad news, then it tends to take the sting out of that disappointment.
Yeah, you have to respect people's personal choices here, Blanca. Of course, one of those choices could be deciding to go to travel to visit family. So what do people need to know if that is their decision?
If that is your decision, you want to talk about what safety precautions are important to you before you go. So if that means you want the 6 feet apart, or you want to wear a mask, or you want to make sure there's no hugging, you want to talk about it ahead of time. And my philosophy is this: you want to be proactive instead of reactive, because when you're proactive, you can start talking about possible problems that could come up. Because if you're reactive and you're there and you don't want to hug and people want to hug, then everyone's uncomfortable and people start taking it personally, and it's just not a very pleasant situation sometimes.
Right. I think proactive conversations can be awkward at the beginning, but it's so much better than a reactive explosion if you don't plan these things out.
Absolutely. Look, there's going to be problems either way. You just have to decide how you can minimize it.
Blanca, thank you so much. It's great to see you again. And we have all of these tips for you on our website, WFNYnews2.com. The 4 to 5 is heading to break, but we're live on Facebook, so join us there.
Hi, hello. I think that's me. It is. Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mic check. I got you now. I did have.
Hello, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie. They forever go together.
Oreo cookie, they forever go together like a classic combination. Hello. I didn't realize my mic was going to be up, but it's okay. It's not the first time. It's not the first time I've debuted my lovely singing voice on the Facebook stream. I'm joking.
So I may or may not have had 6 Oreos yesterday. Cannot confirm, but that may or may not have happened.
So I YouTubed Tanya's lyrics that she always checks her mic with, and I finally found that jingle, but I can't play it for you because it won't play out loud. It's going in my earpiece.
Good afternoon and welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner. Eric Chilton and Taheshah Moise are live from home, and Christian Morgan is in studio updating us on the forecast today.
Yes, the whole gang's here to keep you informed in what's happening all across the world. So be sure to join our conversation on YouTube as we stream this show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Always use that hashtag word 4, number 2, word 5 to stay connected to us.
Right there in the middle.
All right. Pfizer Incorporated says its experimental vaccine is more than 90% effective in preventing COVID-19 based on initial data from a large study. The company is now on track to apply later this month for emergency use approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration once it has the necessary safety information in hand. While the results are promising, the fight against the virus isn't over yet.
This is an RNA vaccine, so these are the instructions for the spike protein of COVID-19 that are injected in the arm, and then the human body makes the protein itself, and an immune response is made to it.
But even if all goes well, authorities have stressed it is unlikely any vaccine will arrive much before the end of the year, and the limited initial supplies will be rationed.
Well, it's not a vaccine or a drug, but researchers think they might have come up with a novel way that can spread coronavirus all through a nasal spray. Interesting here. Let's connect the dots.
The spray is not a vaccine or even a drug to treat COVID-19. Instead, it blocks the body from absorbing the virus. It has been developed by an international team of scientists, and testing is still in the early stages. Right now, the researchers say they have successfully used it on ferrets, which may seem odd, but the animal is often used to test treatments for human respiratory diseases. If they can prove it works on humans, it would be a new way to battle this pandemic. Researchers think people could use the nasal spray once a day to prevent contracting coronavirus. It is inexpensive to produce and does not require refrigeration, so the hope is it could be used in countries that will have a harder time distributing a vaccine. And while the idea sounds a little out there, it's not actually unheard of. Researchers have developed similar sprays called fusion inhibitor peptides, but they were for viruses that are either not widespread or already have a vaccine, so there has been little commercial interest. More research needs to be done on this one, but scientists are hopeful.
You know, whether it's a nasal spray, pill, shot, I don't care, whatever it is, if it stops the spread of that stuff, I think we all will jump in.
Yeah, and it's interesting how those vary for this spray. It's preventing it from entering your body to begin with, as opposed to a virus that attacks it once it does get into the body. But I know for some people who don't like the shots, a nasal spray could be a good alternative for them.
Well, you know, the best and brightest minds in the entire world are working on cures and treatments for the coronavirus right now. And I know it feels like we've been dealing with this for a very long time at this point, but relatively in the medical community, they have come up with treatments and vaccine trials quickly when you look at other viruses and other responses in the past. So we will keep our eye on this one and on the vaccine. Let's talk about COVID numbers, though, here in North Carolina. We saw a decent drop in our daily number of cases around the state today. The state health department reported just more than 1,500 new cases today. That pushes our total number of cases to about 295,000 since the start of the pandemic. As of right now, there are about 1,170 people in the hospital in North Carolina with COVID-19. Our daily percent of test positive is about 6.6%, but the state still wants to see that number go down to 5% or lower.
Dr. Mandy Cohen is now among the top candidates to lead the Biden administration's U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Now, this is all according to a report from Politico. Dr. Cohen, of course, has been a familiar face in the fight against COVID-19 here in North Carolina as the leader of the State Department of Health and Human Services since 2017. Cohen's credentials include a medical degree, Master of Public Health degree, and residency training in internal medicine from universities in both Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Well, some Triad kids got to go back to school today. Kindergarten students in Forsyth County were able to return as part of the district's phased reopening plan. A lot of parents paying close attention to this. Pre-K and early childhood students, they went back to class last week. First graders began in-person instruction on November the 16th. Guilford County School Board of Education, by the way, is meeting tomorrow night to decide on a reentry plan that could potentially bring kids back this Thursday.
Just a few days after the 2020 election results were called, President-elect Joe Biden called for Americans to unite after the long and contentious election. The Biden administration will have a series of executive orders ready to sign on day one. Those orders are expected to cancel a travel ban on several Muslim-majority countries, reinstate the DACA program, and rejoin the World Health Organization and Paris Climate Agreement. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is currently not planning to concede the race for president. He is launching more legal challenges. CBS News confirms the Trump campaign plans to file more lawsuits, and they're encouraging supporters to hold rallies. President Trump still has more than 2 months as commander-in-chief, and he's not done changing up his senior staff. Just this afternoon, he announced on Twitter that he fired Mark Esper, the Secretary of Defense.
All right, let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup. The Randolph County Department of Public Health, they are going to be sponsoring 3 upcoming COVID-19 drive-through events, and it is going to be free for those who want to attend. The first is happening this Thursday at the Grubb Family YMCA in Archdale from 4 to 9 p.m. The second is Friday from 7 to 11 a.m. at the Randolph County Department of Public Health. You will need to set up an appointment, and you can call the Department of Health to do so. The next free event will be next Wednesday, that's November 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at Creekside Park, also in Archdale. In other news, High Point University has just received a large donation. Alumni and longtime educators, Dr. Jim Surratt and his wife Liz, have gifted the university $1 million to help establish the Surratt Scholarship. It will help support a special education major from each academic class who plans to get a career working with children who have autism or similar communication disabilities. In addition, one student pursuing their doctoral in education will be honored with an award for displaying exceptional leadership skills. VF Corporation now owns cult favorite streetwear brand Supreme. The deal costs a whopping $2.1 billion and is expected to be complete by the end of the year. According to VF, Supreme is expected to generate about $500 million in revenue in 2022, and it is now one of the largest brands in VF Corporation's portfolio. Insiders speculate this buyout could lead to more Supreme stores. There are currently 12 worldwide.
Well, we've had some really nice days of weather, but if you look outside this afternoon, you notice things are changing. We had that beautiful Carolina blue sky and sunshine earlier today, but now we've started to be taken over a little bit more by clouds, and those clouds will hang around really for about the rest of the week. Things are pretty quiet and dry across the region right now. There are some showers to our east. That's likely where they'll stay for the rest of the evening. And temperature-wise, quite comfortable too. 72 in Greensboro, 73 in Winston-Salem. Most of us are in the low 70s at this point. We already have the clouds. They'll continue to thicken up as we head through the overnight hours and into your Tuesday. There could be a stray shower somewhere across the area on Tuesday, but those rain chances really start to go up tomorrow night and heading into Wednesday for what I think is going to be a really soggy second half of the week. Of course, all eyes are on Tropical Storm Ada right now, and where it goes, it will likely meander just off the coast of Florida for several more days to come. So bottom line, here's what you need to know. The clouds thicken up tomorrow. Rain is likely, heavy at times Wednesday and Thursday, really picking up between 1 and 3 inches of rain across the area, maybe even more than that in some locations. We'll stay in the 50s tonight, near 60, back in the mid 70s for your Tuesday with its clouds thickening up, and the rain chances arrive and stick around for Wednesday. Thursday, finally starting to dry out some and cooling back down to more fall-like temperatures by the time we get to the weekend.
Jeopardy host and legend Alex TREBEK died on Sunday at 80 years old. He hosted the popular trivia show starting in 1984 and quickly became a household name and face. That's why today a nation is mourning, including folks right here in the Triad who grew up watching him. Brian Whittington of Greensboro says he's tuned in since he was 9 years old and he couldn't help but cry when he heard the news.
My mom had cancer and, my father died from cancer. So he was a fighter for cancer. So every moment that they spoke about cancer on Jeopardy, it really touched me, and I know it touched him more than anything. It became like my father. It became like a historian to me, and it's something that helped raise me.
In March of 2019, TREBEK announced that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and despite his health battle, he hosted Jeopardy up until the very end.
All right, so 2 Wants to Know focused on 3 things today. Here are the 3 things. Number 1, absentee votes are being counted slowly. Okay, all official counts aren't in until Friday, and auditing of the election process.
All right, so we want to start with number 1, Tanya.
Let's start with number 1. I mean, why not, right? Okay, so I want you to check out this map right here. Let's get closer to it so you can see it. So what this shows is absentee ballots are being counted today in 10 counties. That's in the yellow. And then 16 counties will be counting tomorrow. But many counties, like you see in the green, they're not going to count any of those absentee ballots until Thursday, November the 12th. All right, as for number 2, the deadline, which is called the canvass, is Friday the 13th. That's when all the counties have to have their info into the state. And of course, we go to number 3.
For the audit, what happens is the State Board of Elections will assign a random set of precincts to each county board of elections. We'll bring in a bipartisan staff, and they'll actually physically hand count a specified contest on those ballots, and then we'll compare that to the results from the tabulator at that precinct.
There are all kinds of internal audits done by each of the counties. We take a closer look at those tonight at 6. Now, coming up at 5:30 with the new promise of a vaccine. It's great, but you still need to be safe. We're going to give you the chance to get your coronavirus questions answered with the Cone Health expert. We want you to send in your questions by text. That number is 336-379-5775. We start it all up at 5:30.
You know, here's something you don't want to miss. We all know that the arts kind of struggle, especially during these tough economic times. I mean, this year has been hard on organizations, and they're constantly having to rediscover themselves and come up with new ways to get their product out. Well, I spoke with Matthew Glover about how the Flat Rock Playhouse is continuing their Christmas review. Pretty cool. Take a look.
Matthew, we know that it's difficult nowadays, not just for large cities with arts councils and that type of thing, but the smaller communities have probably a tougher time. But you guys have been doing this Christmas play for a while, but tell me what that's all about first.
Yeah, so 4 years ago, I was asked, hey, have you written a Christmas show before? And I was like, actually, I have. And they're like, so write a Christmas show for Flat Rock Playhouse. And so I did, and it was this crazy, wonderful, magical thing that it became such a success that we've done it this is our 4th year now. So it's becoming a tradition within our community as being the State Theater of North Carolina. And so this year, we can bring it to the entire state and the entire country.
So you were telling me that it's kind of like a Christmas review. What would we see if we watch this?
So we have actors that came in from LA, New York, all over the country. There were 6 of them that came in, and we quarantined them. And we also have some local talent as well that we're so fortunate to have here in our lovely town of Hendersonville and Flat Rock, North Carolina. It's really a community event. We also have a 40-person ensemble that volunteers their time to sing for the Playhouse. So this year it was a little bit different where we brought them in one at a time to sing. We also have a local dance studio called Pat's School of Dance that their dancers are involved with every year. So we brought them in one at a time to film them dancing. So it's just like a very new version of this Christmas show that we've done for 4 years now, and all remotely and virtual so that everyone can enjoy it in their own homes.
Matthew, sounds awesome. Best of luck with this. We'll all be tuning in.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, it's almost like a pay-per-view thing digitally they're doing, but that's become so popular in that particular area of North Carolina that it's just, he said the following has gotten pretty big. And by the way, they said that back in the 1950s, they were declared the State Theater of North Carolina. So pretty cool.
That's very interesting. I love that they're doing this. The innovation we've seen to still celebrate milestones and big events like graduations and birthday parties at the beginning, and now Christmas and the holidays during a pandemic. I can't wait. And Taheshah, I know that we have a tradition of seeing the Nutcracker together, so maybe this is our way to do it this year.
Yeah, we're going to have to do it virtual. Christmas is not canceled. I don't have to keep saying that. It's just different this year, just like Thanksgiving isn't canceled and Halloween wasn't. We've all having to get crafty with how we celebrate the holidays this year. But if there was a year that we want to put a smile on someone's face, 2020.
Well
That's the year.
said. The 4 to 5 is coming right back.
Well, for those of you that don't know about today's National Calendar Day, it is National Scrapple Day. That's with a P, Scrapple, not Scrabble like the board game. Today, it celebrates the first pork food invented here in America. Now, traditionally, this goes back years ago to sort of the Pennsylvania area, but it's a mix of the leftovers of pork once they sort of harvest the meat there, combined with cornmeal, wheat flour, and a bunch of different spices. They then cook it into a loaf. It is sliced and pan-fried. It is pretty regional to Pennsylvania in the Northeast, and I probably just say it might not be a dish for everybody. Just say that. But I asked you on Facebook, what's one of your least favorite regional or southern type foods? And, you know, regional doesn't have to be just the South, but I asked you and everybody sounded off. Cheryl Hawkins says Sioux meat and pig's feet. Whew. Well, at least it rhymed. Monique said salmon patties. When you say patty, it just sounds strange, doesn't it? Tracy Stevens Carey says, my parents grew up in Maryland, so I grew up eating scrapple. Whenever we visited the grandparents, I was thrilled when I started finding it in North Carolina. Miranda says brains. I've heard of that too, Miranda, but scrapple may have just made the list. And then Ruth says, my favorite. My dad used to tell my children that it was everything left over but the squeal. There you go. There's your description of Scrapple. I had friends from the New Jersey area in college who talked about it all the time, but I never tried it. Don't think I could, actually.
Can we get a close-up on Taheshah's face right now? Can that happen? Look.
Should I come up closer to the camera? Oh, my goodness. Scrapple, I don't think I'll be partaking in that. I also won't be partaking in anything having to do with gizzards, feet of any animal. None of it. None of it. I cannot.
I had a fraternity brother that ate pig's feet.
No judgment.
Pickled pig's feet. I remember that.
Not for me, but for someone, it's fine. You know what I don't like that's kind of a Southern staple? We called it congealed salad, but Jell-O and marshmallows and like canned fruit, it is a staple. Orange salad,
Just
people
the
call
name.
it cranberry. There's no vegetables in it. But I've never been a fan. Anything in a Jell-O mold is not really my thing, but it's always at our family gatherings.
Oh, well, more power to you for that. I like Jell-O, and I'll call anything a salad just because that means I'll eat it, and then I'll feel good about myself.
That's fair.
Do you know what? When my mother she took the niece's liver pudding and she would fry it in a pan. But when I was a kid, I thought it was sausage. If they would just change the name and lose the term pudding, everything would be great.
All right. Share your thoughts. We'll be right back.
Hey, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie. I love the YouTube version that Chilton.
Hi, happy National Scrapple Day to everybody. What a weird food. Scrapple Day.
Hi, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho.
Hi, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Fixing my light. Mic check, hello. Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek.
It's time for my 2 cents. I come to you again this year grieving the loss of another great to pancreatic cancer. Over the weekend, we learned Jeopardy host Alex Trebek passed away at age 80 after his fight with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, a devastating diagnosis he took in stride. He shared the start of his fight with us all in March of 2019.
Now, normally the prognosis for this is not very encouraging, but I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to keep working.
In the face of uncertainty and treatments, he still worked for another 1.5 years, which is amazing in and of itself. His poise, wit, and charm captured the hearts of millions throughout the years. And it's clear from the outpouring of support on social media that he will be missed. On a personal note, it was Jeopardy that gave me a love for random knowledge, and while I watched Jeopardy many times in the past, I didn't become attached to it until I started working here at WFMY News 2. We would have Jeopardy on in the background in the newsroom, and we'd scream out the answers if we knew it, just like many of you at home. And if we got the final Jeopardy question right, hey, we'd be walking tall for the rest of the night. It was a way for me to bond with my new coworkers. There are few shows that bring people together like Jeopardy, but that's due in part to who Alex Trebek was. An easy-mannered man who always knew just what to say and inspired generations of people to learn more about the world around us, both past and present. May he rest in peace. That's my 2 cents, and your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts right now.
A record number of people in the hospital tonight with coronavirus as we get promising news on a vaccine. A major drug company says its vaccine will be 90% effective.
And at the same time, the clock is winding down.